Yo, what's up, people? It's your boy. I'm Christy Don One, and I am back with another video. You know what you got to do: rate, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so it'll let you know when my next video or live stream goes down. Follow me on Twitter because sometimes when I do tweet, it's thoughtful, very informational. If you've been following me on Twitter and if you watched my video yesterday, I think you need to go check that video out. And I said some things on that video that are jewels. They are gems. So be in the loop, know what's going on, particularly about the things I say and the things I do on YouTube as well as social media. So with that being said, let's get into today's topic. Everybody in the NBA landscape and professional basketball, sports in general, particularly the sports talk shows, radio shows, things of that nature, are in a tizzy about what Scottie Pippen said about LeBron James, that LeBron James can no longer carry a team due to, he's been in the league for 17 years. And due to his injuries, and I'm not going to go into detail like some people try to make their point significant by basically telling you the obvious, okay? Yes, LeBron James, this will be his second year with that he's been injured. Plus, on top of that, he's been injury-free, and even though he's been having knick-knack injuries, really hadn't had an injury that made him miss games. But when his last year in Cleveland, he had an injury. He missed some games. And with the Los Angeles Lakers in his first stint, his first go around, he had a groin pull. And I'm not going to get into his injuries. I'm just going to state facts here. One, I feel like LeBron James, when you look at the roster, they talk about the Clippers, how they're going to have a hard time beating the Clippers. They had a hard time beating the Clippers. When I say they, LeBron James, when LeBron James got thumped by the Clippers last year, they had a hard time beating them because when you look at the Clippers, they're mainly a defensive-oriented team. Okay. They have guys who can play multiple positions that can guard their best 1, 2, or 3. Okay, and yes, they're 4. Fast forward to today, they have upgraded. When you look at the Los Angeles Clippers as an organization, they're better than what the Lakers have currently right now. They are more stable in management. They, when you talk about coaching, I think Doc Rivers is a better coach, than, and I had his name and I forgot about it, than what the Lakers have. I think their supporting coaching staff is better than what the Lakers have. I think the Clippers have a better roster than what the Lakers have. They have a roster that fits their MO. When you add a Kawhi Leonard, who is a great two-way player, and when you have a Paul George, who's been known on the defensive side to cause people problems and havoc, when you add on top of a team that's defensive oriented, okay, that's only going to make that team better. Plus, they're a lot younger than the Los Angeles Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers have players such as Rondo, who's aging and who has been in and out of the roster due to injury. When you look at JaVale McGee, okay, he's only getting older, meaning less athletic, meaning less dependable, because he was always known as an athletic player, okay? JaVale McGee wasn't the best perimeter shooter. JaVale McGee wasn't the best perimeter defender. He can give you blocks. He can give you some rebounds. He can give you energy. Aging, he's getting a little older he's getting a little longer in the tooth as well. So, and not to mention the fact you got LeBron James, who just, chances are he's probably going to get another injury this year. I mean, this upcoming year due to his age, and that's what happens to older NBA veteran players, okay? It's just, common knowledge, and it's just a fact, okay? Nobody can beat Father Time. Eventually, Father Time is undefeated when it comes to professional athletes. When you talk about Dudley, I think Dudley will bring experience, veteran leadership, but then that's pretty much it. He was never the most athletic player. He has a consistent perimeter game, okay? But if you're struggling late in fourth quarters, Dudley is not going to get you out of that hole. When you look at Kyle Kuzma, the inconsistency, okay? He will score 30 some nights, and then other nights he disappear, okay? So now you're going to have to depend on all that, okay? So the Los Angeles Lakers, when you look at their roster top to bottom, they're not better than the Los Angeles Clippers. And I'm just going to throw this caveat out there. They're really not better than the Blazers. They're not better than the Utah Jazz. They are not better than the Golden State Warriors. They are not better than the San Antonio Spurs. And these up-and-coming teams that I talked about on my recent live streams and podcasts. These teams that are going to be on the rise, like the Sacramentos, the Phoenix Suns, okay? I think they're going to, this, when you look at this era, and particularly this season, and you look at all the players on the landscape, the NBA landscape, they're younger players, okay? This is not an old league. This ain't like back in the 80s and 90s when Michael Jordan would play with the same type players that were somewhat in his age demographic, okay? Yes, he came across some younger players, but at the end of the day, there's not a lot of veteran players. There's not a lot of veteran players on the, when you look at the landscape of the NBA. And I didn't even mention the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets have upgraded some. I have not even mentioned the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, do y'all think the Dallas Mavericks are going to have another losing season again? I don't think so. They're going to be contending for a playoff spot also. Okay, so they have a lot of. When you look at their depth and when you look at their roster, they really don't have a lot of younger players that can compete and contend with the younger players in these teams such as Utah and such, and therefore, because they done traded away all those younger players just to get at Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, I haven't even gotten on Anthony Davis. I haven't even scratched the surface on Anthony Davis. When Anthony Davis was a leader of when he led his own team, when you talk about the New Orleans Pelicans, what year did he send them deep into the playoffs where they actually won a significant playoff game, a significant playoff series where they were in the Western Conference Finals? That never happened with Anthony Davis, and there is a reason behind that. A lot of people want to focus on Wes. It was a small market team. They didn't have the proper leadership in the office, and they gave Anthony Davis, not the best of the best, but they have given him pieces in the roster, like Boogie Cousins and things of that nature. So I don't understand why people think Anthony Davis is going to lead the Lakers to the promised land when he didn't even lead the New Orleans Pelicans to the promised land. I think a lot of people, a lot of players on that roster is going to depend on LeBron James, okay? And, in year 17, I don't, a lot of people like to throw out the stats that he did last year, and it was pretty much consistent to the stats he have achieved overall. Okay, it's not like his production has slipped. when you look at, if you just only look at the stats, that's what people argue and give you. That's the evidence that they give you. But what people don't fail to realize is, yeah, he's still putting up those same stats, but does it translate to wins and losses? Okay, because when before the injury, there was like fourth place in the division. I mean, fourth place earlier in the season. He missed a ton of games, like 20 plus games. They come back, and you know, he could not get that team over the hump from behind with all the wins and losses. And he wasn't the only one injured. Alonzo Ball was injured. Kyle Kuzma was injured. I forgot the other guy. I forgot the other guy that was also in that trade package to get Anthony Davis. He was in and out of the lineup. Okay, so when you look at this roster, I don't see why. I don't know why people think that this roster is going to win a title, because it has been proven that they can't. The only thing they added was Anthony Davis. Okay, but they still got the same old. They still got veterans on the floor, and that's great and fine and dandy. But when you're gonna have to, there's gonna be games in the NBA regular season where you're gonna have to outscore people, where you're gonna have to out athleticize people, where you're gonna have people that's gonna be able to keep up running back and forth from one side of the court to the other side of the court. Okay, and I don't think the Los Angeles Lakers have that type of personnel to do that. Okay, and they're gonna struggle. And I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna run off, and then I'm gonna end this live stream. Earlier in the season, you're going to see them win. They're gonna come out like gangbusters. They're gonna win a lot of games. But as the season prolongs, it's an 82 game season. You know, your mentality catches up to you. If you're an older veteran player, you're not going to be able to keep up with this up tempo type of flow. Eventually, you want to slow things down. And that's where the Los Angeles Lakers are going to struggle. That's where they're going to play in the hands of the Los Angeles Clippers, who are a defensive-oriented team that will love to defend you half of the court instead of the whole court. Okay? That's where, when you look at their skill set, what they have in place, can't beat a team only using half of the court. Okay, so that's where they're going to struggle. And it's not the fact that LeBron James can't carry a team. It's the fact that I feel like LeBron James is going to have close to similar to the stats that he had last year. But those stats are not going to reflect in wins and losses. Okay, everyone wants to point out, they like to throw out his stats. 28, 7, and 8. Okay, that's great. I mean, as an individual, that's great stats. But how do they translate to the wins and losses? The only way, I feel like, if you want to only focus on LeBron James stats, he's going to have to do more instead of that 28, 7, and 8. He's going to have to produce more to help his team. And LeBron James is not that same type of person. He's a much older player. Okay, so I don't care how much you worked out in the gym. I don't care how many practice sessions you have with other NBA players. When the games mean the most, and once again, when you look at the NBA season, it's a grind. Okay, it's a grind. Only the strong survive. Okay, out the grind. And I feel like the Los Angeles Lakers, they're an older team, which means they're going to run a risk of injuries, which means they're going to slow down eventually. Okay, which means they don't have the skill set to compete with teams that are more athletic than them, that are better shooters than them, that are better or defensive oriented than them. And those are the teams that they're going to struggle the most with. They're not going to be able to keep up with those teams. Okay, so I don't think it's a LeBron James issue. I just think it's a Los Angeles Lakers issue. But this is the team that LeBron James wanted. And, this is similar to the team that he had last year. Remember? Lance Stevenson, LeBron James, and then they had JaVale McGee. They also had, can't think of his name right now, the Heat, Michael Beasley. Remember those players? Okay. And we thought going in that that wasn't going to work. So adding Dudley, even though he's a better mindset when you look at his leadership presence, okay, but I just don't think they have enough there that can keep them in ball games, because this is still a young man sport, like it or not, love it or hate it, okay? So it is what it is. I gave you guys what I felt like what the Los Angeles Lakers are going to do. I still think they're going to make it to the playoffs. But once they get into the playoffs and then they run with these teams that are more athletic than them, that are better shooters than them, that are more defensive oriented than them, that's where they're going to struggle the most. Okay, so that's all I gotta say on this, guys. Tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. It's your boy. I'm Chris the Don One. I'm up out of here. Deesh.